Let's talk about defense mechanisms. Defense mechanisms can be defined as unconscious resources used by the ego to decrease internal stress. People will devise these unconscious mechanisms to deal with conflict within themselves. Psychodynamic therapy is used by clinicians to help patients orient to their own unconscious processes. When you recognize and identify these processes, people can improve their self-awareness and gain a new understanding of their own behaviors, and then the agency to decide what to change. Depending on the context and severity, defense mechanisms can either be maladaptive or adaptive, starting with primitive defense mechanisms. Acting out. The development of detrimental behaviors that distract attention and energy away from other stressors. This defense mechanism may be present in conduct disorders or antisocial personality disorder. When we talk about acting out, and when we talk about oppositional defiant disorder and the messy history behind that diagnosis, conduct disorders, who's getting diagnosed with those type of disorders disproportionately so, how are we addressing the early life needs of somebody that is having acting out behaviors? This is the kid that's hitting their sibling or yelling out in class or, having bad school behavior, or somebody who engages in teenage risk-taking behavior, acting out because they are trying to distract attention away from the traumas that they are experiencing, from the negative stressors that are impacting them. Avoidance. Dismissing thoughts or feelings that are uncomfortable or keeping away from situations, people, and places associated with uncomfortable thoughts or feelings. This defense mechanism may be present in post-traumatic stress disorder. We see avoidance relationally if you experience early life relational trauma. It can bleed into your adult relationships. Avoidance of things that make you feel uncomfortable. Avoidance of situations that may bring anxiety or be unpleasant. Conversion. The development of physical symptoms that cannot be explained by physical injury. This defense mechanism is recognized in conversion disorder. The development of physical symptoms that cannot be explained by a physical injury. So we think about this as an anxiety presentation about hypochondria, and also with people who really rely a lot on their medical team for support or really trust the authority of doctor or medical care providers to soothe the inner pain and misplaced attachment needs that they didn't have, feeling unlistened to when you're a child growing up, or somebody not taking your health or your physical or your emotional condition seriously. Denial, dismissing external reality and focusing on internal explanations or fallacies, and thereby avoiding the uncomfortable reality of a situation. I think this one is presented a lot on social media because people can become very activated by things that are posted. And the urge is to respond, to defend, or to deny. And by dismissing an external reality and continuing to focus on your own internal reality, or using denial. So not seeking out information or not seeking out help, denying that you need it with substance use or alcoholism, denying that there is a problem, and not expressing the external reality, not allowing that to come in because of the strong walls that you've built around the cognitive idea of what you are doing and how it is, instead of how it is being perceived by other people. Identification, the internalization or reproduction of behaviors observed in others, such as a child developing the behavior of his or her parents without conscious realization of the process. Identification is also known as introjection. This becomes so much more apparent, or it can, when people have children. And, maybe they'll even be distant from their parents, and they will still be doing the same things unconsciously that their parents did to them, whether that's mockery or emotional abuse, abandonment, physical abuse, neglect, being overbearing, whatever they received that made them cut themselves off from that caretaker or parent or whatever early life attachment, they are subconsciously enacting that again because they have not confronted it with the relational above, and it's bleeding down into the relational below. Projection, attributing one's own maladaptive inner impulses to someone else. For example, someone who commits an episode of infidelity in their marriage and then accuse their partner of infidelity, or may become more suspicious. Using trust as a less literal example, if someone is in a relationship and they are unhappy, they feel insecure, they feel mistrustful, they have an urge to cheat or develop emotional intimacy or physical intimacy with someone else, they will become mistrustful of the other partner. more suspicious of what they're doing, more cautious around who they're hanging out with, more protective, more possessive, even though they are the one that is thinking of acting outside. Repression. Subconsciously blocking ideas or impulses that are undesirable. This defense mechanism may be present in someone who has no recollection of a traumatic event, even though they were conscious and aware during the event. Schizoid fantasy, creating an internal retreat into one's imagination to avoid uncomfortable situations. This defense mechanism may present commonly in children or later in development, may present as schizoid personality disorder. Can be common in kids, again, because you're out of control of your external environment and trying to find a defense mechanism, a coping skill to make peace with that. Some people go into their inner worlds, some people go into outer worlds. Depends on the person. And if you change that into an adaptive coping mechanism, it doesn't result in a personality disorder. Like, it won't develop into schizoid personality disorder just because you daydreamed as a child. If you're able to confront your maladaptive coping mechanisms that don't work and find ones that do, that's how you enter into healthy adulthood and healthy relationships. One, failing to reconcile both positive and negative attributes into a whole understanding of a person or situation, resulting in all or nothing thinking. This is commonly associated with borderline personality disorder. Emotions, relationships, situations, past experiences are complicated and they involve negative and positive aspects. As we grow, we learn how to integrate every element of a decision, a relationship, an emotion, an experience, and make peace with that and move on from that and develop further than that. If you get stuck in those past experiences, it can sometimes result in all or nothing thinking and trouble dealing with the gray area or the middle of the picture. Regression, adapting one's behavior to early levels of psychosocial development. For example, a stressful event may cause an individual to regress to bedwetting after they've already outgrown this behavior. Okay, think about how adults use that adaptively or maladaptively if you are regressing to an earlier part of yourself. Inner child healing, even some parts of parts work, right? Being able to go back different times of your memory, psychoanalysis, psychodynamic theory, where you are exploring, okay, how was this when I was a child? And if you grew up in a situation where you weren't allowed to express that, and that's what a lot of these maladaptive coping strategies come from, a child that was in a developmental environment that was not conducive to their development, to their individual development. You may have had parents that were very caring about you achieving. They might have financial stability, but if you are not cared for your emotional self, maybe your value as a child was individuality or autonomy or breaking the mold or unconventionality. And if you are raised in a conventional family system, that is going to cause maladaptive behaviors in you because you are personalizing that to think that it is about you being bad and the rest of you being good, other people being good. Or sometimes it presents the other way, right? You think you are the only one that you can trust. You're the only one that you can rely on because of those early life experiences. So you grow up and you wall yourself off. You are invulnerable. You don't have social support and you still feel misunderstood. And it's all coming from those early life experiences of not being met, which we can change now.